The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of Green Acres and our guests. These general gardening tips and suggestions may work for you, as well as those from alternative sources. When using any garden products or tools, read and follow all label directions.
The Green Acres Garden Podcast is the podcast dedicated to helping gardeners hone their growing skills while we celebrate our love of plants. So whether you're new to growing or a seasoned gardener, you're sure to learn something new. Join the fun as we have conversations with world-class growers, passionate green thumbs, and professional garden experts from Green Acres Nursery and Supply. Listen every week. We'll answer questions you didn't know you had. And away we grow. Hey there, and welcome back, one and all. Hope you're doing great. This is the Green Acres Garden Podcast, the home for all you green thumbs and gardeners out there. Welcome back for another great episode. We're going to get after it. I don't know about you, but the spring has been popping. The garden at the school. I've got tomato plants up to my waist, Austin.
What?
We've got tomatoes on the vine, not ripe yet, but they're looking good. Things are flourishing out in nature. I've been going on walks with my family through the neighborhood. I've been noticing some beautiful plants. And I know we have a great topic for today's episode, but man, can I tell you, the gazanias right now are it's like a carpet of color. For those of you who don't know, gazanias are just this beautiful, beautiful flowering plant. They don't get that tall. They look like annuals because they're so full of color, but they're actually herbaceous perennials. They're in the aster family, so these beautiful daisy-like flowers, and they're gorgeous. I've been noticing them everywhere. So if you're looking for kind of a carpet-style ground cover that gives you a lot of color, but is also pretty resilient and low maintenance, gazanias, give them a thought, give them a chance. They're really cool. They're native to South Africa, which has a climate very similar to ours, hot and dry summers. So I've just been noticing them, and they look phenomenal. But you know what, Austin? Across the street from my house, I have a neighbor, Fong. Shout out to Fong. He gardens almost all day, every day, and he has these trees in his front yard that I've been like drooling over. And I just got to give him a shout out.
Okay, what is it?
Bottle brush trees.
Oh, yes.
Callistemon. Shout out because they are hardy. They are drought tolerant. They can handle the heat here. Their name actually translates to beautiful stamen, right? So that's the male part of the flower. These long red anthers shoot out like bristles out of a bottle brush.
Right.
There's tons of them. They almost look like fiber optic cables. These red filaments that come out, and they're tipped with yellow, those anthers that are covered in yellow pollen. Very beautiful. Bees love them. Hummingbirds love them. They're hardy, and they're trees, but they don't get too big. So if you have a smaller yard or an area where you're not ready for a huge tree, consider those ones. The bottle brush trees are awesome, easy to grow, and I've been looking at them. It's almost like the Truffula trees of Dr. Seuss.
Oh,
they look magical. They're
Which
covered.
is not a real tree.
It's not a real. Thank you. They're not a real tree. Everyone's googling that. Not real, but these ones are. They're beautiful, and I love it. I had to give them a shout out. And with those trees in mind, Austin,
yes,
we're going to pivot to this week's episode.
Oh my God,
topic.
I'm so excited.
Dude, same. Okay, so we've been doing this for a couple years now, 4 years. We're almost, 250 episodes in, give or take? We're close, ready to celebrate. But we haven't done this, and this is something that I've wanted to do since year one. Bonsais.
I know. Bonsai is such a cool topic. I'm so happy we got to dive into this topic for the first time this week, and we spoke with an expert, Roger Steele, and former president of the American Bonsai Association chapter in Sacramento, right here in our hometown. And he's been teaching this, and we got him. He got to share his knowledge with us.
Finally, we got to pick someone's brain about the art and the love of bonsai cultivation. It's one of those things where I think we're also going to myth bust this week a little bit. I feel like bonsais is one of those garden things where you go, oh, that's for the elite gardeners. That's only for the Japanese. You're like, no, that's for everybody. It started in Japan, and they've created the art of miniaturizing these trees and these plants. And basically, you're creating a living sculpture, a work of art that you actually get to cultivate. And it's basically, once you get into bonsai, you're on a journey for life that never ends. And I love it. So we're going to kind of pick his brain a little bit, learn about the way his process, the way he thinks, and kind of go from start to finish, getting up where you can go get a plant, how you can kind of skip ahead in that process. If you want to start from seed or a tiny little sapling, you can. But Roger's got some great tips for us. That's the one thing he loves most, is he wants to share what he's learned. And so we got him. So I cannot wait for this episode.
Yeah, so we had a great time meeting with Roger and learning all about the art of bonsai. We met with Roger at the Green Acres Nursery and Supply in Citrus Heights. Let's go ahead and jump into that now. Here we go.
My first thing in the morning is the sun rising, cup of coffee on my hand and walk in the bonsai garden that I just walked the evening before. But that's because I like it. Hi, this is Roger Steele. I'm a member of American Bonsai Association, and I have been growing bonsai for over 35 years. I'm glad to be here to share an introduction to bonsai.
Roger, simply put, what is bonsai gardening? What does that actually mean?
It's actually a combination of those of us who love to garden and then art. So you combine artistic vision of what you think an old plant or an old tree or a plant in nature has been contorted by Mother Nature, and you express the artistic part of the plant via your gardening skills. So it's a combination of art and gardening, and to make it come out beautiful.
I love it. And you actually, Roger has brought 2 specimens with us. These are from your own collection, I take it?
That's correct.
So they're in pretty shallow dishes. Is this traditional bonsai, what you would see? These are, really wide. They're really short, they're really stout, but their trunks have a nice wide caliper. How does this all work?
That's and that is the essence of the bonsai, is you restrict the roots. If you take these trees, like this corkbark oak, and you plant it in the ground today, genetically, it wants to be 40 foot tall, and it'll start going to 40 foot tall. We stop it from going to 40 foot tall by restricting its roots. So it's in that small pot and a very limited amount of fertilizer, just enough to keep it alive, enough water, just enough to keep it alive, and then that situation causes it to stay small and for the leaves to reduce down to miniature size. And then the tree looks like, in essence, a full-grown oak tree, ancient oak tree, and yet it's from the gardening skills to control that.
It's a beautiful specimen. It's maybe 8-10 inches tall. It's pretty stout.
Yep.
That trunk though is pretty wild. It's gnarled, it's fissured, and if you didn't see the leaves, you almost wouldn't know it's an oak tree. It's so small. Like you mentioned, this is the cork oak. Is it Quercus suber? Something like that. Suber.
The cork. It's a good.
Quercus.
It's a good choice of bonsai material to work with because it does cork. So as you had mentioned earlier, it's the size of the bases. Well, it's the size of the base in comparing to the height of the tree, which gives it that vision of that oak tree on the mountain with the sun setting behind it. So it gets the scale of ancientness by having a big, wide base. Well, a cork, it corks up because that's where the word comes from. Corks up and gets twice as wide as a normal trunk.
Take us through it step by step. For the basics, what is your mindset and start to finish? What does it look like when you start pulling that plant apart and pruning that sucker down?
Well, one of the first things that you want to do with that beginning tree, that very first ever tree, is pull it out of the pot, set it on top of the pot, turn your pot upside down, set it on top of the pot, and then there's generally half an inch or so of just duff on the top where the grower will have put that on there. And you want to kind of clear that away till you can find the true bottom of the tree. And then from there, you go into the tree, and in every crux between 2 branches, you want to go in there and prune that part out. Pick it out with your fingers or prune it out. When you do that, you'll take away maybe 15% of the foliage at that point in time. And I call this point of time as finding the tree within the tree. So we have to get about 60% of the foliage away till we can see the structure of the branches that are in there and what ones that we have to work with. Green mound junipers often lend themselves to a cascade, like spilling over the edge of a pot, or a windswept. I often picture the famous cypress down in Monterey.
Because they grow a little more horizontally.
Yes,
and yeah.
That's windswept and like that. So then as you start seeing it, which branches are crooked for you already, which ones are dead straight, And so it's dead straight ones you need to put some wire on and bend some movement into them. The ones that are going the wrong way, give you an opportunity to strip those and make gin or shari out of those. That's where they're you leave the branch on, but the bark's all gone and it's a white piece of dead wood. So that's the way I would approach brand new, and anybody can do that. They could sit down and often kid, especially the couples, to when they're worried about spending $30 for a Green Mountain juniper and a 5-gallon one, I said, go get a nice bottle of wine and a juniper and sit down on your patio together and take turns.
Date night. There we go.
Date night. Take turns cutting on it and whatever. I said, it's a $32 well spent, and you'll have fun doing it. And and that's the approach to start out with.
So at the end of the process of breaking that first one down, what should it look like? So in the beginning, it's a big bushy, juniper, and you said we're looking for this kind of windswept, kind of cascading shape. What will the size end up looking like, you think, towards the end? And are we going to be trimming the roots as well on that first go around, or is it just all the top cuts?
Trimming the roots depends on what season we do it in. If I'm teaching the class or they're doing that in the summer, I recommend that they don't trim the roots at that point in time. Wait till the fall.
Just too stressful.
Yeah, because you really want. And then if the roots are in full intact, they're going to replace branches that you've been cutting off and strengthening the branches you've kept and giving you what you want, filling in the structure. And so I would say you'll probably have 60% of the foliage gone, half of the branches gone, and it'll be, if the tree gives you a lean to the left or a lean to the right, there'll be pressure from Mother Nature one direction or the other. And so you just work with that, and so it'll look like if it flows to the right, it'll look like the snow is coming down the mountain on the left and pushing the branches over the side on the right. And you can see that. By that time, you can in your mind, your artistic mind, you can see it.
Is there a plant that you've bonsai'd or you've seen bonsai'd that you think would shock people, like they'd be surprised that it was possible, or that was kind of unusual?
I would say people, when they come in, that was one of the things we spoke to earlier, that there's no magic to being a bonsai artist. I think people that come in that are brand new keep expecting them to be special plants, and they're not. The dwarf varieties are the good ones, but they're good to start with. This Mugo pine is a dwarf version, and the one I have at home, that's about the two I have at home that are 4 times this size. They're just another cultivar of a Mugo pine, and it's already going to be bigger. But if they're getting a plant that's dwarf, that's a good start, and but also grows slower. So that's that's their biggest surprise. Is they can walk into a nursery and pick up 90% of what you see as bonsai.
You have these ones that you've had for years. What does the maintenance look like? How do you actually tease out the proportions and the aesthetics that you're looking for?
And that's where the gardening comes with the art. So when you've done that first pruning and maneuvering, you've made the skeleton for your future tree.
Like you would scaffold a fruit tree even.
Exactly. You could say scaffolding just as easily. And then that you have that there, now you manage your feeding and your watering and the timing of your pruning and wiring. So you might wire and bend a branch.
Is that where they use? You see folks using different diameters of copper wire to kind of contort the branches.
Absolutely.
And create that aesthetic.
Well, the big deal about it is, what are we ultimately looking for in these guys? We're looking for age. Well, something like you, who's strong and upright, is boring.
Yeah.
Something like me that's broken and fat and scars, I've got stories to tell. So
I like it.
So these trees when you make them look old and beat up, they've got stories to tell. When they're straight, branches and stuff like that, then they're young. That's a giveaway that they're young.
How important, like after that initial pruning, how important is the pruning that in perpetuity, seasonal pruning? How important is that for your bonsai to keep it to size? And is that just the leaves and branches that you're trimming and kind of keep an eye on, or do you actually bring the plant out of the pot and trimming the roots as well?
You bring out the plant out of the pot, and then you comb the roots out like the spokes of a bicycle. You trim it back down to the size of the pot, and you put it back in the same pot. Household gardening people, and with their plants there, it's the common. Well, I have my Ficus benjamini in a 4-inch, and I repot it next year. I go to a 5-inch, next year a 6-inch. Not with a bonsai. You put it back in the same pot, or same size pot. Doesn't necessarily have to be the same pot, but the objective is to restrict the roots. And the pruning, once you get like this one, the corkbark oak is in shape. It just has to be lightly pruned. You can see all the new, of course your listeners can't see it, but all the new spring growth
I can
going
see it.
on there.
Yeah.
I'll let them
little
grow
glossy leaves coming out, kind of a little bit of color in them.
I'll let them grow out 3 or 4 little buds, and then I'll shoots, and then I'll cut them back and keep just the last one or the last 2 on there. Whereas the mughal pine here, which is very young, still has a lot of forming to do. Its candles are kind of 1 inch long and green, and it's time to be shaped a little bit better. And this has the mughal pine to be as nice as the corkbark oak. The mughal pine will take another 3 or 4 years. The corkbark oak is there.
This one,
tricked out.
And the oak here, it's the base of its trunk is touching the edges of the pot. How do you know when, like you said, it's like you want to keep it restricted, but when is it too restricted? Because there's probably a balance. Because I notice for me, when I garden in containers, I tend to sometimes forget, and then oh my gosh, my flowers they're thirsty. What's the balance of, when is this one going to actually ever get up potted, or are you just going to always keep it in this size? Because that is...
Oh no, stay in that size.
Wow, that is extreme.
I particularly like so just a quick spin off, because this gets really bigger if you want to. There becomes name artists who make pots from Japan and from here. And this is a Sarah Rayner pot. She's very famous here in the United States. And I think the color of the pot and the texture on the outside goes really well with the masculinity of the corkbark oak. So, and that's the right size for it. So I take it out about every 3 years, comb out the roots, and then put it back in. Our soils are, for a finished tree, are a very porous soil. So the water goes right through them. Otherwise, if there's too much water in there, you're keeping them too healthy, and the leaves get big. So you want to keep them just alive. And
because that also restricts nutrition, because it just kind of flows through the soil?
Sure.
Do you feed them at all? I mean, they're alive. They look healthy, but...
Absolutely. On my finished ones, I tend to put a bag of... this almost sounds like a plug for Green Acres, but EB Stone, which I get there.
There we go.
EB Stone and their tomato product, the tomato gardening stuff, and I put it in a paper tea bag. And I put a scoop in a paper tea bag, and I put 1 on there about every 2 months.
And just dilute it into water, or what?
As I water it's a powder.
Yeah.
So it decomposes slowly, and as it decomposes slowly, it slowly gives me a little bit of fertilizer in there.
Nice.
And you want it to come in slowly. You don't want it something like Osmocote or Miracle Grow, because those are jolts. Those are jolts of fertilizer, and then you're going to get long branches and big leaves. Then you have to overcome that.
Interesting. This is so cool. What are the biggest hurdles to success, do you think, for just the first timer? What is it going to take to be successful?
2 things: water, outdoors. 80% of the losses of bonsai are those 2 things.
They're growing them indoors.
They bring them home and they think, this is so delicate because it's so little. I'm going to have this or they'll start indoors and they'll grow it from wherever they got it indoors, thinking it's going to look like that corkbark oak
And do they just get leggy and stretched?
or
And,
die from not enough.
yeah.
They need the brightness or the coldness from outdoors, first of all, and then the second one that they miss is the watering. And if you because we're talking about the soil's very porous and they're very small pots, as you have noticed.
Tiny pots. I mean, I've had bowls of soup larger than this.
Yeah, exactly.
Kidding.
And if you miss a watering, in a deciduous tree, you can lose it in a day. In a juniper, sometimes you can miss it for 2, 3, 4 days. And of course, the watering changes with the year. You know, in December, January, February, I may not water them at all. There may be enough, but watering is the most important thing.
When we have pretty extreme sun exposure here, or the temperatures, especially in the summertime, it gets a little bit in that hot afternoon sun can be a little bit extreme. I've noticed a lot of bonsai sections in the nurseries, and they always are in a dappled light, filtered light. Is that a consideration for you, where your collection is? Is it getting full day sun, or is it kind of a dappled light situation? And is that a way to kind of combat? Kind of balancing the heat and the watering and all that is just having them in an area where they maybe are getting a little bit sheltered.
That's absolutely the accurate way to describe what it is. So I usually try to ask people if they could get western shade from the west. So if they can get shade around 2, 3 o'clock, that would be ideal. There's some oaks and some of the junipers can take full sun. I have a wisteria, which is deciduous. You'd think that would have a hard time, but it's out in full sun, just finished blooming.
It must have been great. Yeah, they've been blooming this time of year.
This was a Chinese wisteria, so it's pink, and so that was pretty amazing. And then I've collected some trees that are in full sun that are collected, and they're Sierra junipers, and I have 9 of them, and they range from 250 to about 350 years old, collected in the Sierras. And so they can take full sun, but they still need to have their water.
Well, it's so cool because some of the ones you've mentioned are like the junipers, the pines. They're evergreen, and so they kind of have this kind of just they look good pretty much any day of the year.
Sure.
And then it's kind of fun to follow these deciduous trees through the season, even in their miniaturized form. It's kind of like having your own miniature forest or collection of forests in your garden.
Forests are one of the most popular things by people, and it's easier to get, whereas the corkbark oak here is about 50, 55 years old. You can put together a forest of trees with relatively young trees. I have a forest of Alberta spruce, and that's the ones that everybody has at Christmas time. That's in that little foil covered pot, right? And
trimmed to shape and whatnot.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And so right after Christmas, everybody wants to get rid of them. So the prices go from $15, $20 a piece to you can pick them up for $2 or $3 each. So when I decided to make a forest, I picked up 5 or 6, then the following year 5 or 6, then the following year 5 or 6. Now I've got differences in sizes over 3 years, and I have 15 to choose from, and I made a forest of 7 out of them. So so there's a very, very nice forest in 3 years, whereas this Mugo pine here is 3, and it still has a ways to go, and so it's not a fast undertaking.
Well, I think that's also one of the things that kind of makes bonsai gardening a little bit different from all the other gardening we talk about.
Yes.
We love our vegetable gardens, I mean, especially this time of the year. But those are kind of ethereal. They're short-lived. It's season to season, year to year, and you kind of get after it. It's, all hands on deck. There's a lot of fireworks and energy involved. And then the season ends, and you harvest and you do your thing. What do you think that the year-to-year basis, the long-term aspect of bonsai gardening, do you think that lends itself to the art form itself or the enjoyment of it?
I believe so. The one thing it does for you personally is you start recognizing very small changes in the plant, which will make you much more aware of plants in nature. Much, 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 much more. You'll see the twists, you'll see the deadwood, the charis, the gins, the root structures, the movement. You'll start seeing plants in nature of all kinds will become much, much more fascinating. And then when you're going out in that yard looking for the little tiny, and sometimes I'm doing something that I really don't expect to see it for a year. So then I'm excited, waiting, okay, come on.
What do you think is a common myth or misconception that people have about bonsai gardening that we could dispel right now?
That they're specialized and only special people can do it, and you have to be massively educated, and you have to have only certain trees. No. Almost any tree will work, or bush. You want to choose ones that don't have big leaves to start with, because you're obviously trying to miniaturize the leaves, and then keeping them alive. If you had a sprinkler system and you put it on a pedestal and sprinkler system, you could look at them and mess with them once every 2 or 3 months, a little bit of trimming, and it doesn't have to be difficult.
So cool. Well, I want to give a huge plug to the American Bonsai Association, and it sounds like you've been tied in with them for quite some time. What is it? Why do you think these associations are important? Why is the American Bonsai Association important to you? And if someone's listening, what can they get out of it if they reach out to them?
What they get there is archival knowledge from the experienced people to keep you from making mistakes or to help you after you made a mistake. And they're very group-oriented. Family's too strong of a word, but they're very group-oriented. They just want you to succeed. So they don't want you to say, oh, I tried bonsai and you quit 3 times. They want you to take that first one and let's get you through it. But even if, as I was saying earlier, even if you attack that big green mound juniper and tear it up and kill it, but you'll have learned a ton. And we can figure out what you didn't do well. Then when you take the next one on, then you're going to make a real winning piece out of it.
Well, Roger, this has been a blast. Thank you so much for making time for me today. I'm learning from you. I really appreciate it.
Glad to be here and glad to share the information and the opportunity to teach.
All right, and we are back. Big shout out to Roger Steele. Thank you so much for meeting with us and sharing all of your knowledge with our listeners. I hope everyone enjoyed that, learned a little something, got inspired. But I do want to share with you some links that Roger wanted to share with everyone. That is the American Bonsai Association Sacramento. They have a website that is full of resources, lots of great links, and even some really awesome YouTube videos that can help show you what these processes look like. So go ahead and look for that in the episode description. Kevin, I want to go ahead and go over to you. What were your big takeaways from our meeting with Roger?
That I've been missing out all this time. I started growing bonsai back when I first got into plants a little bit, and I've kind of pulled away from it these last few years. I've been so busy doing other things, and I think I got to get back into it. He really inspired me, just seeing the smile on his face, that little twinkle in his eye, and then just hearing about, like, oh yeah, you can do it. You just get in there, you grab a plant, you get that juniper green mound, and just start breaking it down a little bit. If you make a mistake, you learn from it. You kind of move on. But I love it. I love the idea of kind of slowing things down a little bit, having a long-term project. You could tell he said his favorite thing in the morning is waking up, grabbing a nice hot cup of coffee, walking out and go checking out his bonsais and giving them a water if they need them, doing the little light pruning as needed. It's something kind of fun, creative to do. And it's one of those things where it really it reminds us that there's the beauty of age, the beauty of these plants. Things can be gnarly and twisted, and things that, that's quirky, that's different, that's unique. Yeah, beautiful. And that's
like how
what we
he
want.
calls it. He's looking for the ancientness.
Yes,
a vision of ancientness in a tree. So fascinating, and it's so cool to hear that like anyone can do this. Like you said, it seems intimidating and advanced, but really, with some of these simple tips that he's providing, anybody can do it with almost any kind of tree, which
for
is crazy.
Sure. I think that's the myth too. It's like, there's only junipers or only pines. It's like, no, junipers and pines are fantastic. I mean, the conifers are amazing. Even spruce are in that group as well. Of course, that green mound he mentioned is great for creating deadwood. But there's broadleaf evergreens. Even things like ficus can be bonsai'd. Deciduous trees like Japanese maple. I've seen some online researching for the incredible. Like you said, where the trunks do look ancient, but then the leaves are all vibrant and healthy. I love it. There's flowering ones. You mentioned the wisteria, azaleas, even the things, Austin, that you wouldn't recognize as being bonsai friendly are bougainvilleas, pomegranates, the pyracantha, which is kind of a pedestrian shrub that we think of, but no, an amazing bonsai. Flowering quince, another one, gorgeous. So select that tree, prune and shape as needed, prune those roots, find the right dish. And I think that's where people think it's really difficult because you see these pretty massive trunks and, pretty stout little trees in a tiny little tray. So I think that has to do with the regular watering, keeping on it. Producer Greg said, hey, you got to get out there and, check that soil, dip your finger in just like you would anything else and feel how wet that soil is because they definitely will respond to regular watering. But I think also having them in a sheltered area was another great bit of advice. But honestly, he fired me up. I think I might have to check out one of their events. I'm definitely going to have to watch some of their videos.
Yeah, they have events at our Green Acres store sometimes, and they have workshops that he teaches things there. So I say, connect with the local chapter of the American Bonsai Association or find one in your area. These people are eager to teach and share their knowledge and their love for this art form. So if you're interested, you're inspired by this, go check it out. This is such a fun rabbit hole to find yourself falling into. And thank you, Roger, for coming on board and speaking with us this week. I absolutely loved it. Kevin, that is all for this week. Go ahead and take us out.
Man, time flies so quickly when I'm here with you, Austin, talking plants. Shout out to all the listeners out there. I wish you the absolute very best in your gardens and all your growing adventures. Please share with us what you're working on in the garden, or if you have your own bonsai collection, post it on our Facebook at the Green Acres Garden Podcast group. We'd love to see what you're working on, learn from you as well, and share that with as many people as possible because I just love to see what people are working on. And honestly, hey, Austin, by this time next week, you and I will both have our own bonsai.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to get you one. I'm going to get myself one. We're going to break them down.
That sounds fun. Let's go for it.
All right, garden friends, well, that wraps it up for us this week. You know what? If you're looking for a little positive change in your life, hey, get out there, garden. Change your own personal algorithm. Plant, grow, cultivate some life. Garden like you mean it. Don't hesitate. Start now and come back next week from a garden adventure. Happy gardening to you all. And please, never stop growing. Bonsais!
Woo!